Guys, welcome to Java Core Programming course, Section 1, Lecture 2. Today's lecture is about data types and variables and constants. So, Lecture 2 agenda, data and variables, naming variables, primitive or intrinsic data types, and data type size and ranges. Let's begin our lecture. So, data in variables. A variable is a named block of memory we use to store information. Consider memory is a contiguous or continuous blocks of memory. Each block is used to store something, and we can store variables in the we can name the block to store some value. Each block of memory can store a single type of information. This is important, single type of information. We cannot store two types of information within the same block of memory. This means that if you declare an integer variable, it can only store an integer. We cannot store any other type of value within the block of memory. So what happens if we assign something different from integer? So we will discuss that point when we talk about casting. That is why Java is a statically typed programming language. That means Java compiler must know every variable, every type of variable must be declared and associated with some kind of data type. Explicit values in the program are called literal values. For example, when we name a block of memory through a variable name, we put something or place something into that memory block. That value is called a literal value. For example, integer var is the name of the memory block, but 2 is the value. That is a literal value. Each literal also has a type. Every literal has a type. For example, whole numbers usually are integer values. Can be bytes, short, integer or long value also. Similarly, decimal points are floating point numbers. There are two data types in Java that represent those floating point numbers. And we used to have strings, and we used to have character data type. We used to have Boolean within the Java programming language. Boolean used to store true and false values. In general, we declare a variable as follows: type and variable name. Type is the data type. For example, int, byte, short, char, whatever. User defined or built-in type. And variable name. We can also initialize the value at the time of declaration or assign a value later in the program. So we can do it on the same line, or we can do it on two lines. We declare first, then we assign, or we declare and assign it. Naming variables. Variable name is called identifier in Java, or you can say variable name. So each variable must follow some rules. The Java programming language has following rules that must apply on variable names or identifiers. Start with the letter. It must start with the letter, or an underscore character, or a dollar sign. Rest of the characters or letters can include letters and digits. Java is a case-sensitive programming language. That means John is not the same as John with the capital J. So it is case sensitive. A variable name must match the case whenever we use it. We cannot use keywords. Keywords are specialized words as a variable name. Keywords are special words reserved for the Java programming language. For example, int, static, class. There are many keywords that Java has reserved their usage, and we cannot use them as identifiers. Rule of thumb. Variable names should be expressive and meaningful. By means of expressive and meaningful, when we read the name of the variable, we should at least know something about the variable, what kind of information is stored there. For example, declaring int var is equal to 0 is far better and meaningful than declaring int I is equal to 0. So int var will indicate this variable will store an integer value. Similarly, we can use str var to store a string. We can use byte var. We can use, for example, float var to indicate what kind of information we are going to store into this variable. So this will be self-descriptive and documented. So primitive versus primitive or intrinsic data types. Primitive or intrinsic data types are the ones Java provided. They are built in within the Java programming language. So each variable is associated with one type of data type. For example, numeric values. There are 4 types of numeric values in Java, and 2 types of floating point numbers. Total 6 numeric values, numeric data types. And character, single Unicode character. Java supports Unicode character set that can store up to 4 bytes of 4 bytes of values that can accommodate almost 65,000 plus different characters and to represent different languages around the world. Boolean. Boolean logical values can only store true or false. Each primitive data type has a size associated with it. Size is the capacity of the data type that can hold the maximum and minimum value. Data type must be declared. When we declare a variable, each variable declared must be associated with the data type. For example, int number of cars is equal to 5. So number of cars is a variable name, int is a data type, and 5 is a literal that has been assigned to the variable. 5 is stored within the memory block, and number of cars is the name of that memory block. In this statement, int is a data type, number of cars is a variable name, 5 is a literal value assigned to the number of cars variable within the memory of the program. So Java supports different intrinsic data types, and this table indicates the ranges, the size, and description of the data type. So first, byte. Byte is the smallest unit. 1 byte can store up to -128 to 127. Can occupy 8 bits of memory. 1 byte is 8 bits. Short can store 2 bytes, and this is the range of short data type, and it can store up to 16 bits of memory. So integer int can store 4 bytes of memory, and it is in the range of these values: 32 bits up to 10 digits of number, a billion value, single billion. Tens of billion is require 11 digits. So 11 digits is beyond the capacity of integer variable. So up to 2 billion something we can store in the int data type. Long. Long is the biggest numeric whole number or integer data type that occupy 8 bytes, and this is the range of this data type, and it can hold up to 64 bits, that is 19 digits number, that is quintillion. You can store up to a quintillion in the long data type, that is 19 digits almost. So float is 4 bytes, and it has this range: minimum range and maximum value. Single precision number that can have accuracy of 7 decimal points. Float is the smallest floating point representation of numbers. Double represents floating point numbers with the precision of 14 decimal points, and this is its range. It is a very big range of numbers, and it occupies 8 bytes. Boolean stores into 1 bit only two values, true and false, or you can say 0 and 1. Logical values of true or false using single bit on or off. Character. Chart data type 2 bytes. Unicode character set. It can occupy at most 65,535 different characters. That almost sufficient to represent all the languages. Hello guys, let's practice for lecture 2. We will declare and assign values to different variables and check if our statements are good to go. So let's create a new program. Lecture 2. Okay. Add the main method. Okay, now we will declare variable. So to declare we need data type and variable name. Let's say int var. Okay, this is declaration. Okay, now assign the value. Int var is equal to 5. This is assignment or initialization. We can do this on a single line or single statement, like int var2 is equal to 3. See, this is data type, this is variable name, and this is literals assigned to the variable. So let's print the values. Int var. Okay, copy, and int var2. Let's run it. Okay, so we declared a variable of int type, assigned a value, then we declared and initialized another variable and assigned a value, and then we have printed these two variables. Similarly, we can declare and initialize other data types. For example, long. Let's say this is long. So nothing will change. It will store the tree and it is long data type, and we will print it. It will remain the same. Data type change. So when we declare a variable, we also associate it with the data type, but we cannot assign an other value and other data type. For example, we cannot assign like int var2 is equal to 3.5. This is double value. We cannot assign a double value, means the data type cannot change. If we do, it is a compiler error. We cannot assign another data type unless we cast it. Implicitly means automatically or explicitly. So casting will come in the next lectures. We will discuss those concepts, how to cast one value to another value. That is a conversion. So once a variable is declared, it is associated with the data type and it must stay the same data type. We cannot change it. Okay, so now naming variables. It is important how we name the variable. So our requirements are start with the letter, must start with the letter underscore or sign. If we don't, there will be a compiler error. Okay, wrong name. Let's say int 33 var 0. It is compiler error. It is not allowed. We must start with $, are, see, the error has gone. Let's print it. So $var2, run the file. See, it is printed 0. Let's say it has a 15. Run, it will run. Okay, now we change it to underscore. Underscore is also allowed as the first character of the variable name. Okay, let's run it. Program executes because it is allowed. Another thing, another point, case sensitive. So this int var cannot be equal to, let's say, int var. So let's try to access it. System.out.println int var. See, compiler error because it cannot identify this name, this identifier. It is not declared anywhere in the Java program. It must match one of the variables declared. So, and let's print with this. Run. Okay, it cannot run. Let's run anyway. See, there are errors. We cannot use a variable that is not already declared within the program. Okay, int var. Now let's talk about size. Every intrinsic type has a wrapper class. We will talk about more in the next lectures for the wrapper classes. When we go for object-oriented programming, or we will discuss built-in Java classes, for example math, for example string, then we will also discuss the wrapper classes. So int has integer wrapper class, long has long wrapper class, float has float wrapper class. Similarly, byte, short, character, etc. have the wrapper classes. So wrapper classes also define constant values that represent the minimum and maximum value of that particular data type. For example, system.out.println max value of int, integer dot max value. So let's print it. Terminate, run it. Sorry, we need to concatenate, run. So this is the maximum value that an integer can store. Let's see the minimum value. Integer dot min value. Oh, this is the minimum value it can store. Okay. Let's see for the long data type. Okay, let's run it. Okay, this value is very big. This is quintillion, 9 quintillion plus value, 18 digits. Similarly, we can print and we can access the minimum and maximum value of the other intrinsic data types. Similarly, let's see Boolean. Okay, Boolean, let's say flag is equal to true, can only hold true and false value. For characters, we can store a single character. For example, let's say char variable is equal to a, and we can also use a Unicode character char var 2. is equal to minus u 0041. Let's print these values. Value of char var and value of char var 2. Okay, let's print it. Okay, char value is a because we have assigned a. So this is Unicode representation of ASCII A. So it will print A. If we change it, we can increase it, it will print B. See, it is B. So we can assign a character to a char variable as a Unicode character or a ASCII character. There are also escape sequences. For example, new line. Tab character. And let's say R, carriage return, B, beep sound. So we can use these into strings and other values. That's it for today, guys, and let's see for in the next lecture, and practice these concepts so that you will have more command on Java programming language. Please subscribe to the channel to promote. Like and comment. I will reply. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.